Welcome to the Denver Gazette Sports Podcast. I am your host, Chris Schmedeke. It is Monday morning here in the Mile High City. So we are reacting to the Broncos' just gut-wrenching 16-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. In Kansas City, a place they hadn't won since 2015, and they still have not won there as they lose on Sunday. So I'm joined by Chris Thomason live from Kansas City. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Obviously, much better than Sean Payton, who
Yeah.
used that same exact quote, gut wrenching, for the defeat yesterday at Arrowhead Stadium.
So let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. First of all, Sean Payton did just talk at about 45 minutes ago. How is his mood today?
It was even tempered. I mean, he said the sky isn't falling. I mean, he's a veteran coach. He
Yeah.
knows obviously it's a tough defeat, but they're 5-5. They're one game ahead of both Indianapolis and Cincinnati, who, have been world beaters and have tougher schedules coming up. I mean, if this team takes care of business, it will be in the playoffs. I mean, obviously, it's a very, very tough defeat. I mean, Cortland Sutton came out a week or two ago, said, "Oh, we can still contend in the AFC West." But of course, that was a pipe dream. Even if they had won yesterday, I mean, they still would have been, three games out,
Yeah.
basically in the loss column. So, yeah, a tough loss, but they showed the ability and resilience when they got wiped out by Baltimore 41-10 on November 3rd to bounce back from this. This is a different type of defeat, and we'll see if they again have that resiliency because they face an Atlanta team that's going to be ornery, and much like Baltimore got stunned at Cleveland and was quite focused the following week. The Falcons get stunned at New Orleans, so they figure to be quite focused as well.
Yeah, Sean Payton's had some tough losses when he was in New Orleans. I was just thinking back now, I mean, in the playoffs, they had that the most recent one that comes to mind is the Rams game with the pass interference call in the NFC title game, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. Malcolm Roach, who used to play with Sean Payton in New Orleans, kind of referenced that a little bit yesterday. I was at two of his devastating defeats because I used to cover the
Oh,
Vikings.
right.
The first one was 2017 season, the Minneapolis Miracle, Stephon Diggs catching that pass. 2018, you mentioned, was the Rams pass interference call, where if that's called, they're going to the Super Bowl and playing the Patriots. 2019, they lose at home in overtime when they
Right.
were heavily favored over, again, the Vikings. So that was three straight years of devastating playoff defeats for Sean Payton.
Yeah, and that one, the 2000, Case Keenum got himself a nice contract from the Broncos because of one of those plays. So we will digress there. But well, so let's talk about you were in that
And he
locker.
got on some commercials now, even though he's a backup. He's on Progressive
That's
insurance
right.
commercials. Yes,
Where is he a backup now? Where's Case Keenum a backup at now?
he is.
He's somewhere.
Geez, yeah, God, I should know this. You put me on the spot. He was at Buffalo last year,
Right.
and
Right.
before that, he was with Houston. But well, we'll get back to Keenum on
Yeah.
our next podcast.
Yeah. We don't need to break down Case Keenum, but let's talk about what that locker room was like after this game. I saw a lot of people talking about how devastated it was and everything. What kind of feels did you get when you were in there?
Definitely a silent locker room. I mean, not that they're jumping up and down after any loss,
Yeah.
but definitely, even more silent. Players were kind of just slowly zipping up their suitcases and moving in slow motion. And yeah, you can tell that it was, and let's use it a term again, a gut wrenching defeat yesterday.
And but it seems like they feel like they can bounce back. Do you get that feeling as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mike McGlinchey, I talked to him after the game, and he said, if you're hanging your head now, you shouldn't be in the league. He went on later to say that this is a playoff team, and most of the players realistic about it. There were obviously some distraught players, some tears here. I mean, Malcolm Roach was really torn up, but to his credit, he still met with the media. And Will Lutz, I mean, took it head on. I mean, he was one of the first guys at his locker talking afterward. I mean, it wasn't his fault, most likely, the blocked field
Yeah.
goal, but he wasn't, ducking at any side doors, and he took all questions head on.
What kind of happened on that field goal? Was it just, big time penetration on that left side and, the Chiefs just got there?
Yeah, I've been studying game films earlier this morning. Mike Sanford, who writes for us, the former uh, coach the Buffaloes, has a weekly column for us. I mean, obviously, he's going to be writing extensively about it. He put up a video on Twitter with him talking about what happened, and I recommend our readers listen to that. But basically, it was pretty much a collapse of the
Yeah.
left side of the line. Leo Chanel, who blocked the kick, was pretty harsh toward Alex Forsythe, saying he had studied him and he was light on his toes and felt he could bull rush him. And if you look at the highlights, I mean, he went right over, fell back. But Matt Pert got some criticism
Yeah.
from Sanford for going kind of outside and rather than moving inside. I mean, it was like a jailbreak on the
Yeah.
left side of that line. I mean, if you listen to both the TV and the radio call, they have no idea who blocked the kick because there's
No.
like four guys there, and they identified like two or three guys who didn't as well. Maybe he blocked it. And it was just a gang rush there on the left side. The left side of the line, you had Quinn Meinertz at guard. You had Mike McGlinchey at tackle. Then you had Alex Forsythe at the what's called the tight end spot on the field goal team, and then you had Matt Pert on the far outside as the wing. But most of the responsibility, and as Sanford indicated, goes to Forsythe and Pert for that block.
So let's talk about the game, not the kick, but the other parts of the game. The Broncos defense won't probably say this, but they have to feel pretty good that they held Mahomes and the Chiefs to just 16 points.
Yeah, it was about 10 under their average. They held the Chiefs to 300 yards, about 50 under their average. And, when the Broncos got lit up by the Ravens, there was more talk about, well, they haven't played anybody. Is this defense really that good? It's just beefing up its stats against mediocre teams. And even though this Chiefs outfit isn't the same offensive juggernaut that maybe it was in previous years, they're still 10th in the league in coming in total offense and points scored. They still have Mahomes. They still have Travis Kelce. So overall, it was a solid defense performance, no doubt, by the Broncos, and they bounced back after the tough showing against the Ravens.
They were able to get pressure on Mahomes. He seems like, and Mahomes is hurt. You could definitely tell on the broadcast that he was limping around. But what kind of blitzes was Vance Joseph bringing? I mean, they did get there with four as well. Like, what kind of led to that pressure on Mahomes?
Well, Sean Payne talked about it a little bit after the game. It's almost a little bit of a pick your poison, but they thought they were going to certainly take some risks and go after him. And yeah, they had 4 sacks and had a couple near sacks and one that was called back on a somewhat controversial
Yeah.
penalty there by Brandon Jones, which would have been an 11-yard sack by Nick Benito. But they gambled. I mean, on that late drive that led to the go-ahead field goal, you had PJ Locke coming on a safety blitz. They were trying to do what they did against the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, maybe plow Mahomes under for a possible game-clinching sack, but that didn't work. So, they gambled, and it was probably even, on how much Mahomes made him pay for it, but obviously they only scored 16 points. A couple of their gambles didn't work out late, but still they ended up holding them to a field goal on that last drive when Mahomes missed a wide open Travis Kelce in the end zone, and the game was obviously there for the taking before the block field goal.
So let's flip over to the offense. Offense was really good in the first half. Not much doing. They get blanked in the second half. I think they had 53 yards in the second half, I saw. But that's a good Chiefs defense. Like the Chiefs have been playing really good defense for the last couple of years now. What did you kind of see from Nix in the offense, especially in the first half?
I mean, overall, it was a steady performance by Nix playing before a hostile crowd on the road in Kansas City for the first time. But still, the offense, I mean, they're up 14-3
Yeah.
midway through the second quarter, and you're thinking that, they're going to score, well over 20 points, 30 maybe, but they don't score for the final 38 minutes of the game, and then has to be regarded as a concern. It's the second straight game they haven't had any points in the second half. So, you wonder, are our teams making good halftime adjustments against Bo Nix in the offense? I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, they didn't score much. They only had 7 points in the second half against Carolina, but that game was never in
Yeah.
doubt, and they're just basically, trying to run the clock out there. But yeah, we'll have to see if this is any kind of trend coming up. The Falcons are a high-scoring team, so this offense is probably going to certainly need more than 14 points to beat them.
Um, how much of a missed opportunity was it to not get 3 points there at the end of the half? Having the penalty and then the drop by Cortland Sutton. Like I feel like that was a real missed opportunity.
At the end of the first half,
At the end of the first half, yeah. When they attempted the 60-yarder, which could have been a 50-yarder or
yeah,
55.
I thought that was a mismanaged series. I mean, they had a 5-year penalty that pushed them back, no doubt. But I think at that point, they maybe were overly aggressive throwing downfield. And if they had checked down, thrown a few short passes, even with the penalty, they would have gotten a more manageable field goal attempt. I was surprised that Lutz was so short on
Yeah.
that field goal attempt. I mean, I asked him after the game about it. I'll be writing about it, more for Tuesday's paper. But he said he hit it good, and there was a wind and what have you. But you've seen kickers today. I mean, to see a kicker in the NFL as good as they are that short on a 60-yarder, that was rather stunning. And this is a kicker who just 2 years ago made a 60-yarder in London against the Vikings. So you would think he has that range. So, but Sean Payton has not allowed him to take a lot of long field goals
No.
this year. And obviously, this one was at the end of the half, so it's a different kind of story. So, you might have to wonder about his range moving forward, especially on the road where he doesn't have the altitude to help him.
So I want to go back to Knicks a little bit because then, they get the ball back, and they chew up the whole clock. I thought that was really impressive. And that's just a known thing with the Chiefs. Like if they get the ball back, they're probably going to win the game. So what did you see from Knicks on that final drive? He was calm. They did hand the ball off a lot because they were trying to kill time, but he made some really clutch throws down that stretch.
Yeah, extremely poised. And that late throw to Sutton that got them the first down and should have won the game was just a brilliant play. I was a little surprised they even gave it to Estime for 2 runs there. I mean, I know he supposedly has cured his fumble problems, but with the clock, they could have easily taken 3 knees versus giving it to Estime because we all know that he's fumbled 3 times this season, including one in the preseason. But yeah, overall he looked good. He made sure he held on to the ball, and then Nix did take the knee, and then of course that was supposedly a chip shot field goal. Lutz had made 32 of 33 inside 40 yards in his 2 years with the Broncos, and make it 32 of 34 now.
And you haven't covered the Broncos for this whole thing with the Chiefs here lately. They won last year 24-9 here in Denver. But the Chiefs kind of hold something over them a little bit now.
Yeah, definitely. I Well, it's interesting. I can only imagine if this was the Minnesota Vikings missing a field goal because I used to cover the Vikings and it was always we're cursed on field goals. Gary
Oh,
Anderson, Blair Walsh, the list goes on about their, missed field goals. So that's the monkey on the back there. And then here it's obviously the Chiefs. I mean, they did stop the 16 game losing skid last year. So they finally, got that monkey off their back. I mean, which is certainly good because if they hadn't won that one last year, they'd now be at 18.
yep.
And the NFL record is Miami beating Buffalo 20 straight times in the 70s. But yeah, overall, though, I think the Broncos, they've been looking at the three games in which they faced the Chiefs since Peyton got there. They manhandled them last October. And the game of Kansas City earlier in October 2023 was 19-8. And that
Yeah.
was kind of the game where the defense started to turn the corner after its atrocious start. And I think they agreed, even though they lost, they played them well Sunday. So I don't think there's that attitude, we can't beat the Chiefs. I think in their minds, they believe they can play with the Chiefs.
So I want to turn some things positive here too. I want to talk to you about how kind of the Broncos are developing a bit of a young core, especially on offense and on defense too, with Pat Surtain and Jonathan Cooper locked up now. But on offense, you've got Nix. It seems like Estime is going to be the feature back now. I mean, Javonte Williams had what, one carry yesterday, and then at receiver, like Vele, they try to get Mims involved more. You've got Franklin. It really seems like they're trying to develop this young core on offense.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct there. I mean, Estime, Peyton said in the conference call earlier today, will continue to get more carries. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, he got 14. I mean, are they thinking about maybe making him a 20 carry guy? And you wonder about, I mean, Jaleel McLaughlin, there's still going to be a role for him as
Yeah.
change of pace guy, but you wonder about Javonte Williams' future. I mean, one carry career low, 17 snaps, which his previous season low was 35, so we got half of that. But so they're going young at running back, and then at receiver, I know they love their young guys. They took a lot of heat for releasing Tim Patrick, but that was so they could keep both their young guys, Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, and so far those guys are showing good potential. Mims, they're trying their darndest to Sean Payton is to get him untracked, and there were certainly some positive developments with him Sunday. They lined him up in the backfield a little bit, threw the ball to him a little bit, and then of course he had 28-yard punt return. So yeah, there's certainly positive developments, and then on the offensive line, I
Yeah,
mean
that's
Luke
good.
Wattenberg is a young center, and Alex Forsythe, that was a tough play for him, but Sean Payton has raved about him, and he's a guy that they look at in the future as not just a center, but also as a guard.
And,
So
and Miners is locked up for the next whatever 4 years.
yeah, and at tight end, I know that's been a trouble spot, but Sean Payton likes Lucas Kroll and Nate Atkins, a couple of young guys there.
Yeah, Lucas Kroll had a couple catches yesterday, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that's exciting, and I think the Broncos will probably try to continue to build on that a little bit. And I think the Bronco fans should be excited because they haven't done this ever. They haven't rebuilt like this, and I think it's a sign that they're going in the right direction. So Chris, thanks for coming on and talking. We will talk about the Falcons with when newly married man Kyle Fredrickson is back later in the week. When we go back to the three-man group there. Make sure to check out all of Chris's stuff over on denvergazette.com. Subscribe to this podcast on Apple or on Spotify. And Chris, safe travels back from Kansas City, and we will talk later in the week.
Outstanding. Thank you.